So my clock says 6 o'clock and we're going to get started. So welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Delray Oaks City Council. Tonight is Tuesday, June 28th, and it is 6 o'clock. Karen, could you please do a roll call?
Councilmember Shirley. Councilmember Donaldson.
Here.
Councilmember Lintel. Councilmember Vice Mayor Gagliotti. Okay. Mayor Kerr.
Here. Before we move on to the Pledge of Allegiance, Karen, could you do me a favor and just call Pat just to make sure that she's okay?
I will right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I see Louise Getzel. Will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ma'am. And we have Reverend Helen with us this evening for the invocation. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you. This time I was able to work my computer. All right. Father God, thank you so much for being with us. Unlike us, you're able to be with us both in person and remotely at the same time. So we thank you for your presence. We pray that you bless this meeting in every way. May any controversies be addressed courteously from both sides. And we pray that some past controversies will be put behind us. And we pray that the City of Delray Oaks will make good progress from here on out. We pray once again, thanking you for your presence. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you, sir. We're going to move on to public comments. Now is the time for general public comments, which must deal with matters subject to the jurisdiction of the city and the council that are not on the agenda. Anyone wishing to address the city council on matters not appearing on the agenda may do so now. The public may comment on any other matter listed on the agenda at the time the matter is being considered. There is a time limit of not more than 3 minutes for each speaker. No action will be taken on matters brought up under this item, and all comments will be referred to staff. So let's go out to the public. Anyone have a public comment? You please raise your hand. Mr. Clark.
Unmute. There you go. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and guests. Having seen how close the Measure B voting was, I'd like to suggest that the City Council make an agenda item or a reminder for somewhere between 18 months and 2 years after the whole bike trail thing goes in. And let's have a review of what the yes on B people thought and what the no on P people thought and what the actual reality is 18 months to 2 years afterwards. I think it would be very educational and helpful for future issues that come up that get a rise out of people. And maybe it would help us in those future issues to just tone it down a little bit. I don't know, just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Any other public comment on items not on the agenda?
Allison, I would like to report that I wasn't on with roll call. I was having a problem and I am here now.
Gotcha. I see ya. Thank you for announcing yourself. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Before we move on to the presentation, we need to take new business item 8C off the agenda. There wasn't enough information. And what I would like to propose is putting consent agenda item B10 in its place. Are there any objections? Mr. Gagliotti. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do. So wait, I'm just trying to catch up here on what.
Okay.
All right. So 8B.
So 8C is rotating off. That's the Carmel honey.
Yeah,
There's-
okay.
And so there's no report, and it was a little premature on the agenda.
Sure, okay.
And what
And
I'd like to pull the EPS contract amendment and put it in its place. There is a report, and I'd like any and all conversation about development to be in the public.
Well, we can pull the item during the, you can pull the item, we can have a discussion separately, and we can still then approve the consent agenda and then still take it under, yeah, and still make the approvals under consent, but we can have an open discussion, just pull the item.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Okay, any objections? Great. Okay, so we are honored to have Roxanne Wilson with us this evening to do a presentation about the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers. For those of you looking at the agenda packet, there is a document included in that talks about the 5-year plan. But Roxanne, I don't know if you're going to go over that or, but it's all yours.
Thank you so much. I think it would be best if I share this presentation. So give me a second. Hopefully everybody can see my screen as it's transitioning. Okay, so again, I am Roxanne Wilson, and I am the Executive Officer of the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers, and my organization serves as what's called the Continuum of Care Lead Agency. Without getting into too much detail of what a continuum of care is, it's basically a federal program that mandates strategic planning around homelessness and efforts, so that we're really looking at the system as a whole and doing evaluations and trying to create a more equitable system so people who are experiencing homelessness can access services and quickly exit out of their state. The reason why I'm here today is to talk about the Lead Me Home Summit, which is coming up on July 14th. But before I get into that, I do want to tell you how we kind of got here. So back in 2020, the coalition partnered with the city of Salinas, a couple of departments from the county of Monterey, and also the county of San Benito to write what is now called the Lead Me Home 5-year plan to homelessness by 50%. We had an original plan, which was a 10-year plan to end homelessness. And after about year 11 or 12, we realized that it was time for us to revisit that entire plan. And when we did that, we wanted to make sure that the new plan was informed by local data and that it input from local stakeholders and people with lived experience, and that it was aligned with current and national best practices. So we had hired a national consulting firm called Focus Strategies to help guide us guide the development of the plan. And Focus Strategies was so for us because of all the proposals that we looked at. They wanted to focus on our community specifically. So it is so easy for a large consulting firm to tell you about these are the best practices in all of these larger cities or these larger counties. But, you know, for us, which is mostly a rural region, we needed something that was going to be looking at our local data. And leading up into the plan, the coalition and our partners had done many different analyses and assessments. We took a preliminary system assessment, and we also looked at our current performance of all of the nonprofits that were collectively working on ending homelessness. We also did some predictive modeling, and we did a housing market gaps analysis, many input sessions. It was, I think, a total of in a matter of 6 months. And we also did community surveys and many planning development sessions. All of that information that we gathered for that first year informed the Lead Me Home plan update. And as I mentioned earlier, we had realized that through this modeling, we can in fact reduce homelessness by 50% in Monterey and San Benito counties over the next 50 years. And we do realize it's ambitious, but it's absolutely doable if we're intentional and we work together. So the one or the three overarching strategies in order for us to achieve this goal is one, for us to increase the participation of homeless solutions by leaders and key stakeholders across the region. So the coalition has been going around between different cities and doing the full, which is not what we're doing here today, on the entire plan. And we are very excited because many of these jurisdictions have actually adopted the plan. So in the city of King, the city of Salinas, the county of Monterey, and then we have many other jurisdictions that are in line for us to do presentations to see if they'd be willing to adopt the plan as well. Again, we do know that we can't do this alone. We need every single partner, every jurisdiction, every nonprofit, all of the sectors to really lean in order for us to make this work. We also needed to improve the performance of the entire system. So the been working with different agencies in creating these overarching guidelines to do things like align with Housing First best practices and to hold them accountable, right? So a lot of the money that we're receiving in this sector is public dollars. So we just want to make sure that we're holding everybody accountable for the work that we say we're going to do when we're asking for this money. The final thing is that we needed to expand service-oriented responses to people who are currently living unsheltered. There has been a lot of people, I don't want to say this is a kind of a broad stroke analysis, but a lot of the people who are living outside and who have lived outside for a long time have suffered from many, many years of disappointment and trauma and things of that sort. And a lot of that trauma is stemmed from just being told that they were going to get services that they never actually received. So we are being very intentional in expanding the types of services that are meeting people where they are. And this helps us build rapport and get them inside. There's so much study and so much proof locally that this strategy does in fact work. So we just wanted to make sure that we did not lose track of how much rapport building it's going to take to get especially chronically homeless individuals inside. So one of the actions of the year one action plan was for us to host a large meeting that is really intended for people who are like city managers, city planners, elected officials, like those the gatekeepers is what you'll often be referred to get them to really understand, like, what does homelessness look like? So in our community on July 14th, we will be hosting a summit on homelessness. The topics of discussion are really hot topics, like how do you like ethically address an encampment that has to be cleared out? And how do vouchers work, right? So if you are in Delray Oaks and you want to build a program, you're trying to figure out how to fund this and how to really make it a viable project, vouchers are going to be one of those long-term subsidies that you would want to explore. So we want to open up that door and give you an opportunity to learn more about how vouchers work. And also just like, who are the people experiencing homelessness? I'm sure you guys are very much aware that the spectrum of homelessness is extremely wide. There are more people who are experiencing homelessness that we don't know about than there are people experiencing homelessness that we do know about, right? So we just want to, we're going to bring a couple of experts who are out in the field to talk about the people that goes beyond the numbers. We are also going to teach about how to not only authentically engage with the youth experiencing homelessness, but also how to build up that community support on any projects that you want to push forward. I'm sure we've all heard of the term NIMBYism. That is very much active and alive, and it'll stop a project dead in its tracks. So how do we pull together a community to wrap our support around a project and say, yes, we will in fact move forward with this together, right? And there's a ton of money that's coming down. The governor has allocated now $14 billion into addressing the homeless crisis. We do not know how long this money will continue to come from the state, but if you want to take action, right now is the time. So we want to teach jurisdictions about all of these incredible things. And we're also very excited because the Deputy Secretary of Homelessness from the BCSH agencies, the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency of the California, will all be one of our keynote speakers for that day. And she has come from the city, very well known across the state of California, especially in our sector. Incredible measures that are innovative and moving people from the streets and into housing. And I do believe that concludes my presentation. You can register at chsp.org. As soon as you go into the website, the very first banner you'll see will be an invitation to join. And I hope that I get to see you all there.
Thank you, Roxanne. I am already registered, so I look forward to seeing you there. What I'd like to do is go out to the council and see if anybody has any questions or comments. Vice Mayor Gagliotti.
No, I have none. Thank you very much. It was very
Sorry, Mike.
very informative. Yeah. No, very informative. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Donaldson.
No, I don't have any questions, but thank you very much, Roxanne, for the great presentation.
Ms.
Thank you.
Ms. Lintel.
I also have no questions, and I did enjoy your presentation, Roxanne. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, let's go out to the public. Any questions, comments? Karen, are you seeing any?
No, I am not.
Okay, I am not. Let's bring it back. Any last comments? Roxanne, thank you so much for not only coming and presenting this, but also the hard work you and all of the coalition are doing. I'm really looking forward to learning more and seeing what progress we may be able to do together.
Thank you so much. I do apologize. My screen is frozen, so I cannot stop sharing. I do
No, you
apologize.
have stopped sharing. That's okay, but your
Okay.
face is frozen.
Oh, gosh. Well, thank you so much, Council and Mayor. I do appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone on the council want to pull any item? I'm not seeing any. Anyone in public wanting to pull any consent agenda item for discussion? Okay, we're going to bring it back to the council. I have just a couple of comments and then I'll pull something. Mr. Gerton?
Yeah, I think we just want to clarify that we already pulled section C10 or number C10.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
B10, yeah.
C10.
Oh, sorry, I wrote over the C. You're correct. Yes, C10. I just want to make a couple of quick comments. I realize our Seaside Fire folks are here, and I want to thank you for the agreement and working with us and vice versa. I think it's a great partnership. It's been a long-term partnership, so thank you for that. I also wanted to say C8, I am thrilled to see a lower bid and what is being suggested. And then back up to item 4, the green waste recovery. I just wanted to comment that I did ask for consideration for senior rates. And the feedback I got was that no cities in our area have senior rates. And I just checked before the meeting, and Seaside and Marina have low income and senior rates. So I realize that this year is going to be a little lower, but I will push again, hopefully next year, for our seniors to be able to have those as well. So we can either go ahead and discuss item 10, or we can vote on this and have a longer discussion. What is the council's?
Why don't we vote on the consent agenda with the item pulled and then come back to the discussion and then we can.
Okay. I would consider a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda with the exception of C10.
I'll second. Any discussion before we go to a vote? Okay, Karen, could you put us through a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Donaldson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lintel,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gagliotti,
Aye.
Mayor Kerr.
Aye, so it passes unanimously. Again, thank you, Seaside Fire, and we're looking forward to seeing those trucks down there. So now to discuss C10, consider contract amendment with Economic and Planning System or Systems for Development Analysis and Negotiation Support Services. This item was a surprise for me. I was unaware of it until I received the agenda packet. And I think that one of the big lessons that I've learned from our recent Measure B experience is that we must ensure that conversations happen at a city level. And this is moving us towards development. And I think I've always been very clear. I want clean, clear, and very public processes for anything that touches our Fort Ord property. So I just wanted to have a conversation about this. It's not an insignificant contract. And again, I just wanted to say I was surprised. So I just wanted to hear how everybody else thought about it. So if we could open the conversation, Vice Mayor Gagliotti, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a surprise to me. We've been talking about this since 2019. And I mean, Dino and I started this back before COVID, and then it's been brought to what's got us to this point to where we actually have ESP, getting on board for consulting services has been a process. I mean, this hasn't been sprung on us, and there's been several votes on it. We've gone through 3 city managers who've basically taken this this effort and brought it forward. And this is just what we've all agreed that was going to happen, is that we were going to go through an interview process. We interviewed 3 developers, 2 stuck around. We've selected a developer, or at least we presented a developer with we want to present the developer with an exclusive development agreement, and then have them respond. So it's not in my mind, it's been a surprise. This has just been this is the culmination of a process that's been going on since 2009, and that Dino started with Zender, with Dave Zender.
Okay. Mr. Donaldson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The last time we spoke about this, the EPS contract, I looked at this step as the next logical step. So as a matter of fact, the city manager had talked about this at the end of that discussion, that this would be the next logical step. So I guess I'm not really surprised by it. Like Councilmember Gagliotti spoke about it. This, we've been talking about this for years, and we've got a city manager that understands development, and we need to start moving forward with it. I mean, one of the things is, water is available, and I don't want to get to the point where we're dragging our feet, that we get to a point where that water that has been made available to us is no longer available to us. The other thing that I would like to say is, I know we're going to be talking about the budget a little bit later, but what you'll see is property tax is one of our top 3 sources of revenue in the city. And, this is an opportunity for us to build housing and most especially build affordable housing that we've been mandated by the state to build. And this is our opportunity not only to do that, but gain the revenue that's associated with, and then also create some added business out there where we can bring in that much needed revenue. So once again, I had seen this as the next logical step that we talked about during our last discussions when this contract came up. And I think it's the right way forward.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Untel.
Yes, I agree with both Councilmember Donaldson and Vice Mayor Gagliotti. We need to develop that to provide income for the city, and it's been lingering long enough, and I think now is the point where we need to take some action. Thank you.
Okay. So I just want to clarify, I have no problem with moving forward with the process we put in place, but it was the timing and we have at our last strategic planning, we came up with a schedule, and next month we're supposed to have a blended planning commission and city council meeting talking about the timing of the project. So when I say I was surprised by the timing. I'm not surprised by the document. I'm not surprised by the contract. I was just not anticipating it prior to that conversation. So what I'd like to do is go out to the public. Does anyone have any comments they would like to offer on this item? Mr. Ragsdale Cronin. You're muted.
I gotta find the right button. There we go. Hi, Bill Ragsdale Cronin, Vice Chair Planning Commission. So this thing's been floating around, like John had said, for a lot of years, and we've been kicking the can and doing whatever. But there's also been a lot of talk about planning and getting what people want out there and having joint meetings and all that. And I haven't seen them. I haven't seen surveys going out about what the people in the city want to do out there. Maybe I'm not seeing something. Excuse me, got a nasty sinus infection. Pardon me again. So I think just we need to step back. Everybody talks about, we got to get tax revenue. We got to build houses and get tax revenue. We got to build houses and get tax revenue. Well, if you build houses and the tax revenue don't cover the city's costs, you're not going anywhere. You're going backwards. Seaside Downs, all the hue and cry that went in there and all the taxes they were going to bring was not going to pay for the city services that were required to build Seaside Downs. So we got to be careful with that. It's really easy to slap up a bunch of cookie cutter houses, but sorry, we have to be careful. We have to make sure that what we do is smart. And, we have a joint session next. Sorry, guys. We have a joint session coming up. And I think if we just maybe step back a little bit and make sure that we do all of our planning as was laid out 18 months ago, then I think we'll be just fine. And again, I apologize for my voice.
I'm so sorry. You sound horrible. Mr. Clark.
Thank you. Jim Clark, Villa Verde. I've been around a lot of years. As you know, my wife served 20 years for the city of Delray Oaks. And I will tell you quite honestly that this process was first presented long enough ago that I thought 5 years ago, when I turned 65, I was going to be able to move into a senior activity center that was going to be out that way. We haven't broken ground. We haven't even got a developer anymore. I don't know, and while I appreciate everything Mr. Ragsdale Cronin has to say, and he's got wonderful insight to things, from my perspective, I look at there's slow and there's not moving at all. There's careful and there's, oh my God, I don't want to do anything to change anything because it can't possibly be good. So I'm just encouraging that everybody to realize that there's been plenty of input. There are experts in putting these communities together, and it's not the citizens of Delray Oaks. We all are plumbers and lawyers and electricians and doctors. Very few of us are contractors and construction and city planning. That's a whole separate thing. So for us to think that we could come up with a better idea than our elected officials and the contractor they go with, I can't get there. So my encouragement is, let's put the pedal to the metal and get this up before it's going to cost us. Look back at what we would have built this for 20 years ago and what it's going to cost us now. If we sit back and do this whole thing and wait another 20 years, it's going to be exponentially more expensive. Please, let's get moving on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any other public comment? Okay, let's come back to the council. Any last comments?
No, I move approval that we approve the contract with ESP, which is what, C10.
Okay.
I second.
Okay, before we move on to the vote, I do just want to reiterate one more time, and I feel like I'm a broken record on this. I want everything to do with the development to be very public and to be very clean and very clear, and for us and the public to understand the process. So on that, Karen, can you please do a roll call?
Councilmember Donaldson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lintel,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gagliotti,
Aye.
Mayor Kerr.
Aye. So it passes unanimously. There's no old business. New business, the first item is to consider resolution 2022-15, rescinding resolution 2019-09, temporarily deferring collection of cannabis business tax due to the COVID-19 pandemic. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So you'll all recall April of 2020. It might be hard for some of us to recall because it's been a long 2 years, but the world changed in that month between March and April. We weren't sure where it was going. Everything was shut down. In response to the shutdown and in the interest of being good partners with our new industry, the cannabis industry, the council, the city manager was requested to consider deferring taxes for cannabis businesses that were impacted as a result of the pandemic and the shutdown. That came to the council for consideration. The council, in the interest of being good partners and helping a fledgling industry that Delray Oaks was really on the cutting edge of getting involved with and has been such a great partner with and has really benefited from in terms of looking for new revenue streams for our budget. You guys wanted to help out, and I think that was admirable. It was well-intentioned, but now we're 2 years out. I think most of the impacts, at least to those types of industries and that type of business, maybe haven't completely gone away, but have certainly gone away to the point where if there are lingering effects, we should revisit those and talk about how to address those going forward. So at this time, we're recommending that we rescind the resolution that allowed cannabis businesses in good standing to defer their tax payments. Over the 2-year period, only one of our 5 licensees has taken advantage of that. And they're continuing to, so this will effective on the 30th, this will end that. As the resolution was written, there's a 120-day period for them to get current. So that's what we're going with. Obviously, in the interest of being good partners, if they want to come and talk with us, if that's not reasonable, because it has been a 2-year period. I think when we did this, we thought it was going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 months.
Yeah.
2 years of deferred taxes is a lot.
Yeah.
So 120 days is probably not going to be reasonable for them to overcome, but we'll work with them, and if need be, we'll come back to the council with a plan and hopefully continued partnership with them in that. So with that, I'm available for questions. Also, City Attorney Lorca is available as well.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you for that explanation. Vice Mayor Gagliotti.
Yeah, I'm just curious what the accrued tax, the accrued deferred taxes are with that one vendor or that one business.
Yeah, so without penalties, which the resolution did not assess penalties on the deferred taxes, assuming they pay within the 120 days, we're approaching 375,000.
Yeah, that's
back
what I thought.
taxes.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, so then, I mean, it's not on the agenda, but there is going to be an agenda item where we're going to discuss how we're gonna square that, I imagine, right? Yes.
How we're going to do what? I'm sorry, John?
How we're gonna, how if it is if we're able to do so, how we're gonna retrieve that or get that back or have that paid. I know it's not on the agenda tonight, but I'm just asking, is that agenda item is coming, John?
Yeah, so our preference, like I said, would be to continue to partner with them and help them work through a situation and help them remain a viable business, but also get caught up on their tax liabilities.
Yeah, but
if they can't, then there's legal remedies to that, and we'll address those if and when we get to that point. Yeah,
right, exactly. No, I understand. It's not on the agenda, but thanks for quantifying just how in arrears they are. So
yeah.
Is that it, John?
Yeah, I mean, I have a comment in that I wasn't in really a great agreement about this because these are not necessarily good things to do. Like all this does is this just made the problem worse for somebody, and I remember saying that 2 years ago, that we need conditions, we need security, we need all kinds of these things. If you're going to give these out, just letting somebody not pay their taxes just letting somebody not pay their taxes does not help. Actually, it just gets them in a deeper hole. So anyway, that's a personal feeling. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lintel.
Yes. I wonder, do you feel that they're in a position that they can start paying back taxes, John?
I don't know. I've met with them and asked them to come back with. It sounds like for pandemic reasons and other reasons, they might be having some difficulty right now, but they're trying to work out of it. And so I've let them know that I need to talk with them and come up with a plan. And we need to know what is reasonable for them at the very least getting current on current taxes, and then we can talk about back taxes. So short of going in and doing an audit, I don't know exactly what their financial situation is at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Pat?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Donaldson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I do remember Councilmember Gagliotti stating those concerns many years ago, and they were very justified, and it became reality. And I think we've been more than accommodating to this particular business. And like the city manager talked about, we thought it was going to be just a temporary thing, and now we're going all this time, and we've got that $375,000 debt that is accrued. So I think this makes sense. It's a step towards trying to recover some of those, well, hopefully all of the money that they owe us. But this just makes sense. And like I said, to the business out there, I feel as though this city has been more than accommodating in trying to facilitate them being successful. And it's sad that it's got to come to this, but we've got to do what we've got to do. And, the other thing that the city manager mentioned, basically 4 out of 5 of our cannabis business have not provided us really any source of revenue. And, any bit that they have, most of them are behind. Really, the only source of cannabis revenue that we have right now is our dispensary. And, that's taken a hit as well because of the competition that's out there. But nonetheless, I support this, and I think we need to move forward on it. Thank you.
Okay. So I too was part of those conversations, and I remember we had one conversation and then we were supposed to come back in 4 months, and
Yeah.
now it's 2 years later.
Yeah.
I think it just makes sense. It was originally just for a very small amount of time, and it wasn't just us that was doing this. There were a lot of people, everything was struggling, and so I think it was the right thing to do then. And yes, I remember, that we should put some conditions on it, but we didn't. And now here we are. I did just want to remind everybody that they had been paying us $1,000 a month for the rental, or the negotiated rental of the space down in the courtyard. And so that just stopped. Not that $1,000 is going to get us $400,000 very quickly, but there is some, and I really appreciate the city manager being able to negotiate with them. I think they need to come to the table, and it's time to start talking. So I look forward to what you may be able to negotiate. And obviously we'll have another conversation within the next 120 days, hopefully. So let's go out to the public. Any public comment on this agenda item? I am not seeing any, so I'll bring it back to the council. Any last minute comments before we take a vote? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt, or that we consider, was it resolution? Yeah, rescinding resolution 2019-09 as stated.
Actually, could I ask for a point of clarity? The current resolution is resolution 2022-15.
Got it, understand. You're right, correct. That's correct, Mayor. Okay, so I move that we rescind.
No. That we accept resolution 2022.15.
So now I understand. The resolution rescinds the resolution 2019. Got it. Okay, and thank you for that. I appreciate that. So I move that we approve resolution 2215, rescinding resolution 2019-09.
Perfect. I'll second.
Great, thank you.
Any comments before we vote? All right, Karen, could you help us with this?
Councilmember Donaldson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lintel,
Pat, we couldn't hear you. There you are.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gagliardi,
Aye.
Mayor Kerr.
Aye, so it passes unanimously. Let's move on to new business. Item B, consider approval and adoption of the FY 2022-23 municipal budget. Mr. Girton.
Thank you. And I would like to point out that the confusion with the resolutions is because of attorneys, not because of administrators.
Yeah,
The administrators are always clear and concise.
of course. Yes.
Speaking of which, so for the budget, we'll be fairly brief on this because you all have heard this several times over the last month or two. There haven't been many changes since we presented this to you last month. We've done a few, fine tweaks here and there as Roberto has gotten clarification on numbers. We got a little bit of clarification on estimates for sales tax going forward. We locked in our costs for the insurance costs. Is Bill asking a question or is he leaving? Okay, bye, Bill. Get better. Where was I? Yeah, so we've made a few little tweaks. Is there anything I missed there, Roberto? No, okay. So just a quick overview. The general fund budget, which is our primary budget, is set at about $4.3 million. This year, different than the last couple of years, we've budgeted that as a balanced budget, meaning no surplus or deficit budgeted. We're planning on spending all of the funds that we bring in over the course of the fiscal year. Obviously, we've been a little bit conservative because we're still coming out of the pandemic, and we don't really know what the impacts are going to be long term with sales tax. The economy is a little uncertain. Housing market continues to boom, which is a good thing. But who knows? My magic ball is pretty murky, so I don't know where we're going on that. But you know, we've already heard some comments earlier about our revenue streams. Our revenue streams are still very narrow. We're primarily focused on property tax and sales and use tax, and then our cannabis tax. We've talked a lot about beyond the pandemic effects. Well, the deferral that we just talked about has had a significant impact on our revenues. And I think even if we work with that business coming out of it, it'll be some time before we get back to the same levels of revenue in terms of taxes from that business. But, you know, I think when the community bought into the cannabis industry and bought into the concept, I think the staff did a really good job of explaining that, you know, we weren't sure where this was going. This was potentially just a short-term fix for the city, and that we needed to continue looking for new revenue sources and build that up. Our revenue streams are very narrow, as I mentioned, and so we're very susceptible to any kind of wobble in the economy in any area. So Roberto and I, with that in mind, worked on a very conservative budget. It's basically a status quo budget going forward. We do have some increases, but we've also managed to decrease in other areas in order to offset that. And we've been able to take advantage of some one-time money, which has been nice because we've been able to address a lot of capital and ongoing maintenance issues that have been long deferred. So some of the key things that we have is approximately, you know, a little over 700,000, right, Roberto, in capital projects. I forgot what we settled on now. You remember that number, Roberto?
673,000.
That's right. So yes, $700,000 in capital projects. That's making use of funds like the rescue plan funds from the federal government to help communities recover from the pandemic. Also utilizing some Measure X loan money that has been sitting for a couple of years that went unutilized. We've had some buildup in SB1, so we want to take advantage of all of that now while we can and while we have it, and leverage that the best that we can on some of the critical needs that we have going forward. So we have some really good projects in terms of modernizing our operations, getting our technology more up to speed with the new demands thanks to the pandemic, but then also addressing some road and drainage projects that need to be taken care of. And we're being able to use some of this money to leverage to get some additional grant money from our insurance company and looking for additional grants. So that's been really good. And we're still, working on looking for additional revenue sources, looking for opportunities as a result of that presentation in December on how to utilize some of the city's properties, how to benefit a little bit better from the tourism industry in the region and capitalize on some of that funding, and broaden our revenue stream so that we're a little more flexible when a downturn in the economy hits. But some of the things that we have been able to do in this budget and some of the things that are good increases. Oh, I also want to mention critical stuff that you guys did that was critical to getting us to where we are now is different things like the airport police services, the fire services with City of Seaside. We get excellent service for them for a really competitive price, and it's a really good partnership. Same thing with the airport district, being able to provide a high level of police service to our small community. That's because we have this partnership with the airport, and I think it shows economy of scale, and we're able to provide better services to them. They get increased services at a reduced cost. We get increased services at a reduced cost. So we're looking forward to continuing that contract and extending that for the next 5 years, starting next fiscal. Well, we have one more year in the current contract, and then it'll renew for an additional 5 years after that. I think that's been critical for the community and keeping the level of service that we're accustomed to in the community. But along with that is, I really appreciate you all working with me and addressing some of the needs in terms of valuing the employees that we have and the staffing that we have. We've really seen a drastic improvement over the last 5 years in terms of quality of service, and that goes in a lot to what you all have done over the last 5 years to improve morale here, to improve recruitment and get higher qualified staff, and then retention. Retention is key. And so a key aspect of that is we have to be competitive in the market, and we have to provide a desirable work environment. But part of that is, our folks need to be able to live in the region and raise their families in the region. And so we've started addressing that with a 10% cost of living increase for our police department for the next fiscal year. I think that's an excellent step forward. And then we can talk about in the coming year where we're going to go in the next 3 to 5 years in terms of that to remain competitive. To do that, we've seen over the last year that we're able to function with one of our police officer positions being vacant. Again, in the interest of being conservative, to at least start the fiscal year, we're planning on budgeting that position vacant for the rest of the year. But who knows, things may change. We may, things may be going better than we anticipate, right, Roberto? And then maybe we can make adjustments. We have had some impacts that we had to budget for this year as a result of the pandemic, beyond just reduced revenue sources. We've had a 50% increase in our workers' comp insurance coverage. That's directly related to our cases over the last 2 years, primarily because of folks catching COVID and being out. That's something that's happened across the board for most jurisdictions, so it's not unusual. We're small, so we get hit a little bit harder, and so ours are a little bit higher than some of our partner jurisdictions, but everybody saw an increase this year. And then at the request of the council, we also included a 5% increase for the public works supervisor, which is, I think, very money well spent for the services that we get from that small division. So really appreciate your attention to that area of need. And with that, I think I hit all the high points, right, Roberto? Anything I missed?
No, you've hit everything. The only other thing I'd mention is, the budget is kind of an ongoing process. With this, everything's balanced. Once we finish the fiscal year, we'll be coming back to talk about utilization of the fund balance, because that'll be the next step, how we utilize that going forward. But it's looking much better than it was when I came to work here. So I can say.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, we're in a good position, and for the first time in a number of years, probably decades, we're in a position to have some one-time funding to spend. And as Roberto mentioned, we have this fund balance. It's big enough that we have some big discussions to have about how to utilize that money, because there are a lot of things out there that we could use it for. And so we want to make sure we have a targeted discussion about that. So we'll probably target that for mid-year budget adjustments. And at that point, we'll also have a series of financial policy. We have financial policies, we'll be adding some and we'll be modifying some, and we'll take care of all of that at the same time. And so the recommendation is to adopt the budget. We have several resolutions that go along with that cover a bunch of things that we need in order to implement the budget. So we need all of those resolutions adopted as well as part of this action. And I'm available for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for all your hard work. Vice Mayor Gagliotti.
I don't have any questions. I have a comment. I could probably do that after we make a motion.
Okay. Ms. Lintel.
I have no questions. I think they did an excellent job, and it was a hard job, but you did well. Thank you.
Mr. Donaldson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'll also echo the great job that's been done by the city manager and Roberto. I really appreciate it. And, you know, the city manager outlined some of the challenges that we have out there. And, you know, you look at it as a whole, revenues are down about 6%. And that's mainly due to what the city manager was talking about with the sales tax going down to pre-pandemic levels, and then our expenditures are up almost 3%. So we're kind of in that situation. Any grants that we received during COVID, that will no longer happen. We've enjoyed those for you know, for the past year, has definitely helped our budget out, but that is now over. So like you mentioned, we do have some challenges moving forward, but overall, I appreciate the great job you guys are doing. Thank you.
Okay. I just have a couple of questions, of course. Where did we end up with the airport true up? Are we good for the rest of, how does that affect the budget?
Yeah, go ahead, Roberto.
Okay, let me, and then John can follow up. I have been talking to Tim Bergholz at the airport. We're coming back probably late July.
Okay.
Due to scheduling conflicts, we can't get together until late July. They reviewed the numbers. They're feeling good about it. We just need to basically put it in detail and come back to the council with the numbers. But the numbers are looking good. They reviewed the numbers. They provided feedback, but they'll be towards the end of July by the time they're able to meet with us.
Okay, and so that will come back to us in August, John?
Maybe it depends on scheduling. They Tim and Mike LaPierre, the executive director, both have some time scheduled off, and they don't coincide, they overlap. so getting into a room with them is going to take some time, and then to make sure that we all are in agreement. So maybe more like September.
Okay, so we're just moving forward as is with nothing new.
Yeah.
Okay, that works. And I noticed the fee schedule. Were there any changes made?
No, not yet. So we're going to work on. I don't want to commit to a comprehensive, but we are going to work this year on looking at the budget. Some work was done 2 years ago by Denise, and then for various reasons it didn't get presented and adopted. So we're going to take that, build on that, and come back, because it's been a number of years since we've addressed our fees, and they are a little bit behind, especially in the current inflationary state that we're in. So that'll be part of the mid-year budget adjustment as well. Yeah, okay. We want to give the time, definitely want to give enough time for us to look at it, develop it, work with the finance committee on it, and make sure that the community, especially our developers who do the work in the community, are aware that this is coming.
Okay. And then our current planning budget, the number was 108. And I'm guessing that the contract that we just approved will go against that. And so that's 1 point. So then there's only 10K left with or without the developer. But currently our planning budget is only 55%. And I know that we have a housing element due in December. So there's a slight disconnect for me there. We all know that Denise will bill late, but I want to make sure that there's funding there for her to be able to get us over the line for this out of date planning, housing element.
Yeah, yeah. So the funding's there. It's really just an accounting issue and in terms of the
Okay.
budget and moving it from one fiscal
Okay.
year to the next fiscal year. And we've had some hangups in terms of, because it's grant funded. And so the expenditures are offset by revenues. We just haven't worked out with Denise how much is going to get accomplished this fiscal year, which we have 2 more days, so that shouldn't be a problem. And then how much we have going into next fiscal year. So once we have that, we'll come back probably in August with an item to amend that budget with.
Okay, thank you. And then the last thing is actually more of a comment. I haven't dug into the California budget yet, but I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for us, especially now that Measure B did not pass, and people will, you know, are going to be more likely to work with us. You know, I know that there's AB 1383 funding that may be coming down to jurisdictions, and I know that we have some of that funding, and there may be additional grant opportunities. So, so Scott, I think we have 1 more year of good things potentially coming down from the state for us. So that was all I had. Let's go out to the public. Anybody have any comments, questions about the budget, next year's budget? Okay, we'll bring it back to the council. Vice Mayor Gagliotti, you had a comment?
Yeah, well, actually, I'll make a motion to approve the budget as presented. And then I can have a discussion after that.
Could I make a, is it a friendly
Yeah,
amendment?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't bring this up earlier. I attended the Monterey County Military and Veterans Affairs stand down. And it is an amazing, and especially tied to the homeless presentation we had earlier. It was powerful. So it was open to all homeless veterans. You could get your dog vaccinated. You could get legal assistance. You could get dental care. You could get clothes. You could have access to any and all services. I would like to propose a simple $500 given to them for their next stand down. That's my only, and so I just wanted to throw that out there. I was really impressed. And we do work with Community Human Services for all of their work. We support the Casa de Noche Buena, which helps families. And I would just love to be able to give them a little to assist homeless veterans. So that would be my only ask.
I think it sounds great. I just want to make sure that, you know, do we have $500, John? And is there a way to kind of, I mean, the budget's done, right? And we're approving the final budget. Can we make changes to the budget with this motion? Is it possible to do what the mayor would like to do in this motion, or do we have to adopt the budget and then bring something back?
Yeah, so I spoke with Rick Johnson, our rep on the Veterans Committee, also about this, and I think, Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're looking to hopefully raise around 50,000 from all the jurisdictions. So, you know, other jurisdictions are donating, you know, in the neighborhood of $5,000.
Yeah.
So $500 is definitely doable. To your question, yeah, $500 doesn't require a special designation by the council. Just the fact that you're giving us approval and direction to make that donation, we can easily absorb that in the current budget.
Okay.
As presented.
Then I accept the friendly amendment. I'll just make the motion that we accept the budget as presented with the addition of the $500 donation to the Homeless Veterans Organization.
I second.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments before we we go to a vote? Okay, Karen, please take us away.
Councilmember Donaldson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lintel,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gagliotti,
Aye.
Mayor Kerr.
Aye. So it passes unanimously. Thank you,
Sure.
gentlemen, for all of your hard work and getting us over the line for the next year. I look forward to the mid-year. John, did you have
Yeah,
something?
I just wanted to make a comment, and we could have done it before the vote, but the comment is that every jurisdiction in Monterey County is developing except for us. We're the only jurisdiction that is not developing. And we have to do this. And there's, you know, you can hear the public comments. We're so gun shy. We've so convinced ourselves that we just can't, it's the third rail. We just can't touch it. But it's not so daunting. It's not hard. And it is something that we have to do for our survival and the budget, and then and the ES, you know, all the ESA work that, you know, that in pulling the item, I commend you, Mayor, for doing that. I think that was a worthy thing to do, to bring this out and have this conversation. But we, you know, to one of our residents, to what they said, there's being deliberate, and then there's just stopping everything because we're just so afraid to move forward. And that's what I have been sensing, what I've been watching our community do. And the Measure B thing actually was, you know, it played out just like that. I mean, half this community does not want anything to change. You know, they want basically everything to be just the way it is on that particular project. But I think that sentiment is throughout our community, and we really, I mean, as elected leaders, we are responsible for keeping the lights on. We've got to, we want to provide services, but we can't provide services if we bleed our city, you know, and you know, Dino used to say this when I first came in, and he used to say,
John,
Yeah.
I'm just concerned that this is not on the agenda.
This is a comment on the budget. I'm
Got it.
commenting on the
Okay.
budget.
Okay.
I'm commenting on the budget.
Okay.
And so I asked to have this discussion before the vote, you know, procedurally, we just didn't do it. So I'm taking license now to
Okay.
comment on what I feel that we need to do in order to improve our budget story. Our revenues are diminishing, and we are not diversifying our revenue. It's basically drying up. And we have an opportunity out there to change that. And we seem to shy away from actually really doing anything on there for whatever reasons we have. But every jurisdiction in this county is developing, and we have to do that. I mean, they do it for their survival. We have to do it for our survival. It is part of what we have to do. So those are my comments with regard to the budget.
Thank you. I just want to respond, if I may, in regards to the budget and frankly, the strategic planning that we have done. We have things coming up to get us to a place to develop. So, I mean, it seems to me that we're further along now than we ever have been. I agree that we need to keep going. And I don't want you to misinterpret me, but I want a clean process. And so, next week or next month, we were supposed to have the Planning Commission and us looking over the timeline, right? The other thing is I want to make sure that our decision makers have the information that they need, right? Our planning commissioners have, other than maybe George, have never developed anything. So it's like, I want to make sure that we're making the right decisions. And so, yeah, that may slow things down a month, but I think we're moving in the right direction. So I just want to, echo that for you.
I appreciate that. I totally appreciate that. And I agree with everything basically you've said, other than we need to basically keep slowing down and keep finding time. We should have been doing some of this stuff 5 years ago, because development in California and development in Monterey County is not overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, just to even get a developer in to where we're starting to do, I would say, the real work, the real community involvement is going to be years from now. You know, and if we continue to kind of keep slow rolling what we're doing, these what I would call the perfunctory tasks, just getting an ESA in place and getting a developer at the table, that is not development. I mean, that's not putting steel on the ground. There are no impacts or anything like that. That's getting the discussion started. That's what, I mean, we keep hearing that we need to have these discussions, you know, that the community is not involved, Well, it's just because we don't even have a forum to do that. And so we need to be doing that. And that is the development process. And frankly, it's you can't read it in a book, you know, you just got to do it. I mean, development is really on the job. You can learn parts of it. You can learn, you know, you can learn city planning, you can learn infrastructure, you can learn real estate, you can learn permitting. But in order to put all of that together, you got to live it. You got to go through it. And so we got to do it. You know, I mean, for all those reasons, for our survival reasons, but also just for the experience, so that our planning commissioners, you know, learn this. And they're going to be learning on the fly, and they're going to be leaning on Denise, and she's a good teacher. She taught me a lot. So
I would, and my final comments, we're also in a position right now to be able to do that financially. Whereas I don't know if 5 years ago we were getting there, but now we are.
Well,
I'm just drawing it back into the budget.
Yeah, right. Okay, but let's talk about that. You know, we've had line items, but Dino and I brought $11 million into this city 2.5 years ago from Fora. And that's all CIP money that's just sitting out there. And we should be going full tilt on that. That's to make improvements that are good for the entire region, to basically make improvements on South Boundary Road. And that's just languished. So, you know, we have money. There's money. We've got money sitting in the bank, literally money sitting in the bank to do stuff. So, but we don't seem to have the temperament to just take that and go, oh man, we got to go do this. What's interesting is that like other jurisdictions like Marina is known as being, you know, very, I'd say environmentally conscious. I mean, there's a lot of things about Marina that I think there are people who align themselves with, but Marina builds, you know, and they have huge tax revenues and they fight for it. In Fora, their city manager and Gail Morton, I mean, they fought for their ability to develop. So development is not a bad thing, but it's been kind of in our community, it's been kind of, I think, understood either or misunderstood as a bad thing.
All right. I think we could have this conversation all night, but
I'm sure we could.
but it is 7:15 and I want to, if there's no other comments, I'd like to move on. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
So let's move on to staff reports. Mr. Gerton.
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say before we completely jump off the budget stuff, on behalf of Roberto, I appreciate all of the nice comments, and I'm always happy to ride on the coattails of those who came before me. But you know, this was a long process that you all were involved in to get us where we are, so that we have the budget that we have. And Roberto and I had an easier time putting it together than we would want you to know, because we're in that situation. We didn't have to make scary, tough decisions. So I appreciate that. I think, you know, the finance committee being willing to meet monthly and work with us on that has been a great help. You know, it's really been a team effort over several years. So thank you for that. The only thing I have, you know, there's been a lot going on at City Hall. Obviously, you saw this was a pretty robust agenda with a lot of things going on. Some of that's timing just because of the time of the year at the end of the fiscal year, but a lot of it also is there's a lot going on, and we're moving and utilizing the position that we're in and the financial situation that we're in and some of the one-time funding to be able to take advantage of that. And we want to keep the ball moving. Ron Fucci has been a huge part of that. So I don't know if any of you have been down to the park yet. I know the mayor goes down to the park regularly. If you haven't been down, you should go down. There's new playgrounds. The playgrounds are awesome. We made sure that we had Matthew, our youngest member of the Parks and Rec Committee. It's his idea for big kid swings. So we made sure he was the first person with his brother to get to swing on those big kid swings because we wanted him to christen them. So we set that up and that was great. And then there was a whole bevy of kids waiting in the wings to come and jump on that playground as soon as we took the fencing down. So that was fun to watch. We also have new bocce courts that are in. Jeff's not on screen, so I can tell tales out of school and let you know that we already christened them. And let's just say the better team won. And but it's been fun. They've done a great job. As you know, Ron stays on top of costs on everything, so that came in under budget. He also made the improvements to the dog park watering area, so they're right next to each other. He's been getting a lot of kudos from our regulars at the dog park for that. If you've been down to the park, you've probably noticed that the grass is a little brown, and that's not because of water restrictions or anything. Some of it was because of construction and not being able to run the sprinklers at the normal times because of that, but also our well went out down there. So we were without well water for several days. So Ron's been scrambling all late last week to get the well repaired. That's done. And all of this is built up to July 9th. We have flyers out for everyone. The mayor's mentioned it in her email. Please plan on attending. We're going to do a park reopening party in conjunction with the Parks and Rec Committee and the Citizens Action Group. So we'll be doing the park reopening, kind of rechristening the new park, and also doing the ice cream social. It'll be a great celebration of the park, our community, and hopefully continuing to emerge from the pandemic. So please get that on your calendar. It's July 9th from 1 to 3:30. And then also from administration, we're still working on the council chambers and trying to get ready for hybrid meetings. I don't know if any of you attended the Carmel Valley meeting about the roundabout, or if you read about it in the weekly. There are still regular challenges in terms of running Zoom meetings and running hybrid meetings. And Supervisor Adams' office, unfortunately, had to deal with some really bad actors hacking into her meeting and doing some really outrageous stuff. So we want to make sure that we're positioned where that type of thing doesn't happen here in Delray Oaks. But anyway, we're working on that. We're anticipating being ready for a hybrid meeting in August, so stay tuned. The world is still in flux, so we'll keep you guys apprised of progress as we go along and whether or not we're going to make it there. So thank you, Mayor.
I just wanted to note that in many of my park walks, I see a lot of adults swinging too. So it's working its magic.
Yeah, I did. It's fun.
So did I. So the correspondence is in the agenda packet. Our next meeting date is not until Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022 at 6 o'clock, because there is no regular council meeting scheduled for July. Hope everybody has some good time off. I have no other, I'm looking around at my notes. On that, we are adjourned. Have a wonderful July, and I hope you get some good time with some family and friends and barbecue and all of that. So have a good evening.